Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm about to read chapter 8, Faded Hearts. I know it's been a while since I did a chapter, and I am sorry. So I am going to give you kind of an overview of the first 7 chapters in case you've forgotten something or you're a little out of it, because it's been like a month. Basically, Cody woke up on the night of what appears to be the apocalypse. There was a beam in the middle of the sky. By the end of the first chapter, apparently, he fainted, and when he woke up in the second chapter, this woman who can evidently open portals has taken him off of Earth and onto a new world of fantasy people, elves, dwarves, and such. More like the fantasy games that he played while he was on Earth. He hasn't said that there's like a direct connection, like they're not the exact same characters, but basically fantasy. He went into a world of fantasy. He's been in the care of a family of elves. Weiston is a tall Trent elf, and he's married to Akarim, an Oaken elf, who is a short, stubbier race of elves, and she has 2 twin daughters, Akarim and Sira. Or I said Akarim and Sira. Castania and Sira. Castania being the firecracker, Sira being the sweetheart. He has been learning that through eating these leaves buried over the dead, he's been able to pick up on the language of the deceased very quickly. He has these dreams of these people who died, and he lives through their minds, through their memories, and it's been a great help to learn the language very quickly. He has done a couple of acts that have garnered him a little bit of pride among the community, enough so that the Libus family have gifted him, him and Michelet. Michelet is his friend, the one that suggested this gift. But he got this gift of eating Drobe Libus's leaves. It's the first harvest of the tree that was buried over his body. No one knows how Drobe Libus died, but he was this great war hero, and it's expected that through the years that he will have having the dreams specifically of one hero, this very great hero that had some very unique weapons, that he would learn the warrior related skills that Drobe had. He's also going to be expected to train during the daytime as well, but we haven't gotten that far. He's only had 2 dreams so far. One that kind of introduced you to Drobe and his dynamic with his father. He killed a dragon. And in the second dream, he met the priestess, the vain priestess, who at the time was a very young little girl of a third race of elves, a very fair-skinned race of elves, more like the traditional elves you might see in D&D and whatnot, who apparently can tell the future. She's someone who's a fortune teller. And in this dream of Drobe, she told Drobe that he would be going on his last mission, that he was going to die. And that nobody but the person who killed him, the person that would one day eat his leaves, and her, those are only 3, who would know, who know what really happened, how he died. He then, the dream transitions to him returning to the Wood Elf city, a city of massive trees where people live inside these trees. He's returned to his home in this dream, and the dream suggests the possibility that Weiston killed Drobe. Weiston being younger and his friend at the time. The only thing that's really clear is that Weiston is not telling the whole truth about how he found him that night, because everyone knows that Weiston found him on the outskirts of town, but he had told everyone he was already dead when he found him, and he wasn't. And at one point in the dream, Weiston was pointing an arrow at Drobe. So, the person that is like his new adopted father may be the killer, but he's not exactly sure. When he wakes from this dream, however, he is coughing up blood, it has alerted his family, his adoptive family, and the little girls who have magic capabilities have been casting healing magic to try to keep him alive until he wakes from the dream. Because according to what they believe, you can die in your dreams if you dream while eating these leaves, and it does appear to be so, because I mean he was like I said, he was coughing up blood. So that's where we are right now. Again, Chapter 8, Faded Hearts. Wyston and my sisters have gone back to their rooms to rest. Dawn will rise within the hour. Akram is lying next to me to make sure I won't have another episode. She is so worried. I know I cannot risk falling back into the same dream with how sore my body feels. I don't feel safe enough to sleep, even if I wanted to. Wyston may be onto the fact I know more about Jerob's death than he would like. He knows I've been snooping for the answer to Jerob's death, and that the new details I learned may have triggered the dream. The one safety net I have is my adoptive mother. When the ringing in my ears subsides to only a small annoyance, I gaze up at her watching over me. What happened tonight? I ask. With a tired and worried voice, she whispers, Your sisters heard you from their beds. After checking on you, Castanea came running into our room. She said you were talking in your sleep and that you wouldn't wake up. When Wyston and I came up to your room, Sierra was casting a restorative spell and you were coughing up a lot of blood. We tried to wake you, but sometimes a dream will trap you until you are ready to end it yourself. When Kendari warned me of that, I just assumed it was the same nonsense people said on my planet. It rarely happens, but she spoke the truth. If you experience a wounding event in Jerob's life that your body cannot take, you may die from it. What did you dream about? I searched for the answer to cover the truth. I don't know. I can't remember. I suppose the experience may have traumatized you enough to suppress the dream, she says, and gives me a worried glance. Maybe you should stop taking Jerob's leaves. He had a violent life, and your small body may not be strong enough to handle such detailed dreams yet. Did you know that the breed of tree the Libus family used is known to create such vivid dreams that you can sometimes hear word for word what the dead were thinking? I do hear Jerob's thoughts sometimes. With such clear detail, you may be more at risk, I suppose, she says with a nod of her head. It's best that you wait a few years before eating from that tree again. No, I say while fighting to keep my voice down. The Libus family needs me to uncover Jerob's killer. She's in a daze that I disregarded her. I feel bad, but my face doesn't falter. Her expression shifts to frustration, and she says, If I let you go on taking those leaves, you must not go seeking his death. To try and trigger it could wound you on a nightly basis, if not kill you as it almost did tonight. If we find you like this again, I'll forbid you from taking those leaves. Do you understand me? I nod. I love you, son. I know that you want to be a warrior someday, and Jero can get you there. But I won't let you die like this. But I won't always have control what I dream about, I say. I'll be able to tell if you wake up bleeding all the time. You have no idea how much you worried us. She pauses. I had never seen little Sierra draw out so much magic like that before. I didn't realize she was such a mystic already. Castanea was trying too, but medic spells aren't one of her talents, she says, interrupting me. Although, I'd bet she'd still make a wonderful caster. She has her heart set on becoming a dark mystic. I didn't know that. Sierra is the one who's unsure what she wants to be. I hope that she found her calling tonight. The destiny reading ceremony is almost here. I almost forgot about that. What's the point of wanting to be something if someone else is going to tell you what you're going to become anyway? It's nice to have dreams, Nathan. We have a tradition called a dream forge, where children write down what they hope to become during the ceremony. If the child's dream and the priestess's fortune match, the child is allowed to lift the parchment above their head to let everyone know they've achieved a dream forge. A dream forge? I ask. Again. I didn't say again. I put that in there for some reason. A dream forge, I ask. It's more for the parents. It's a great joy to hear the priestess announce that the child will become what they wish to be. If one of you accomplishes a dream forge, we get to frame that parchment and keep it as a trophy. I still don't know why I'd want someone to tell me what I will become. She'll probably tell me that I'll become a dishwasher. She giggles. You should know better than to think that. You're special and brought here for a reason. And I need a priestess to tell me that? The destiny reading is a celebrated event that only comes around every few years. Because the priestess rarely makes appearances in the city. It's such a huge event that families from the other Vane cities will travel here so their children can receive the reading. It may not be special to you, but to my people, it's an honor to have the priestess grace our children. Little taps sound off in the hall as Sarah walks up to my room. She looks exhausted. Brother, are you going to breakfast with us? No, I'll bring Nathan back some food. He's in no condition to leave here, Akaram answers. But Rogar will think I'm too weak to work with them. Well, you are. I'm fine. Seer healed me up, remember? Mom furrows her brows. You're staying here. If you feel good tomorrow, you can visit the Libus family. Within a half hour, the family had left for breakfast, and I'm alone. While I lie in bed and wait for Akaram to bring back my breakfast, I realize I've never been in this tree by myself before. I know it will be a while before Mom will be back with food. So I get up and walk around to prove to myself that I'm healthy enough to work. Maybe when she gets back, she'll realize that I'm okay and will let me leave. I walk down the hall into the den to stretch again. But as I pass Wystam and Akaram's bedroom, something catches my eye. I see the tall red cabinet that Wystam had placed the guns in, and am curious to know if they remain inside. I open the double doors and look at the edge of the highest shelf, unclear if the bladed Desert Eagles are hidden there. I scan around the room, find a small wooden chest, and climb on top of it. There they are, nestled inside the deep shelf. I pull both down, feeling the heavy weight of the weapons, and stare at them in awe. From out of nowhere, Wystam's voice rumbles through the room. What are you doing, son? Out of instinct and completely on accident, I turn around and point both guns at him. The blades are in a locked position and aligned with the barrels. The weight of the blades, as they continue far past the barrels, create a tense imbalance that's hurting my wrists. Once I realize what I'm doing, I lower the guns and place them at my feet. I'm not sure my decision is the right choice, but it didn't feel right to aim the guns at my stepdad. I didn't mean to. These were my father's, and I only wanted to look at them. They look like something from the Vale. They look like shooters. Shooters? You mean guns? Shooters are dishonorable weapons. These are not Vale shooters. They are my father's guns from my world. Wystam rushes to me and takes the guns. I struggle with him, but he overpowers me. He places one back on the shelf and then presents the blade of the second to me. He holds the gun close to my face, making me uncomfortable. Fingering the blade, ball joint, and outer casing of the handle, he examines the gun with distaste. If you kill a man with this kind of technology, you are giving him a dishonorable death. The Veil created weapons like these, but under our treaty, even they won't use them. Nate, if you give a man a dishonorable death and they don't deserve it, the elves may execute you. Executed. Do you know what that means? Have you heard that word before? Yes, I understand. He calms down and begins to put the second gun onto the shelf. No, wait. What's that blade and ball joint? He looks at the weapon and then at me. It's the blade you're interested in? Yes, I've never seen one like that before. That part is not from Earth, not from my world. He gives a slight grin. A blade with a round ball joint at the handle like this is called a fated heart blade. It's a weapon that symbolizes our belief in destiny, a belief that every free choice we make happens for a reason and moves us exactly where we are destined to go. By comparison, it's as if every move you make with this blade, every turn in the joint, is a path that you have freely chosen. However, we believe that path was already destined to happen and brings you to the same conclusion. This one's a short chapter, guys. I've only got one page left. I stare at the ball joint and imagine it moving. He looks at the weapon again, and the grin on his face morphs back to a frown. A fated heart's joint is based on two forms of magnetism. The weapon should only have one button, although this seems to have a disgusting copy forged by the Veil technology. Ugh, technology. I look at the lever. Look at the lever. Real fated hearts have a release button, not a lever. He points at the lever at the top of the handle casing. How dare they alter the concept of such a sacred weapon? What does the lever do? His eyebrow twitches with excitement. With the gun in hand, he extends his arm out. The blade stays in a stiff, parallel position to the barrel. His thumb slides over the lever, and the round ball joint rotates, allowing the blade to fall naturally with gravity into a vertical position, dangling free at the end of the handle. Weiston glances at me with a grin, and then proceeds to use his arm and wrist to pivot the handle of the gun. This causes the katana-shaped blade to move in all directions with wild fury. I cannot tell whether Weiston is talented at swinging this blade around, or just lucky he hasn't cut himself yet. Either way, my eyes widen in amazement at the beauty of the weapon as it flutters about. Weiston looks at me again, and I'm smiling. In one swift movement, he lays the dull side against his forearm, then shoves and stops the sharp edge up underneath my jaw. I hear a faint click as the thumb slides across the lever, again, to lock the blade in position. He's staring into my eyes, and I instantly feel in danger. What fate do you believe this weapon has for you? Feeling nervous, I gulp and feel the sword's edge scuff my neck. His livid eyes pierce into my soul. After a long pause, he pulls the sword away and chuckles. He moves the lever one more time and rests the blade back into its original position before laying the weapon on the shelf. Don't ever sneak in here and look at these weapons again. I give a slow nod. Your breakfast is in the den, he grumbles. I thought Akram was bringing my breakfast. Your mother has worried over you enough. She's right, you know. You shouldn't go searching for Jerobe's death anymore. I should have realized that Tree's power might be too much for you. He was your friend. Don't you want to know how he died? Not at the cost of my son's life. Maybe Jerobe's secret is meant to stay a mystery. He says before looking away from me. Soon, Weiston left after locking the cabinet, and the rest of the day went slowly. At dinner time, Akram came to tell me that I could join them for dinner. I did, and when it was time for bed, I crawled into my pelts and stared at the ceiling. Should I carry on with my quest for the answer? I know that, at least for today, I wouldn't be safe to try to trigger that same dream. To try is to rebel against Akram's orders. But I will need to know the truth. I must. Someday. And that's the end of Faded Hearts, Chapter 8. I am sorry that it was a little bit slower, although this video is already 20 minutes long. I know that the weapons themselves can be really hard to explain visually through words. That's why I do it in several pieces. I described them already once, actually twice, I believe now, before this chapter. So this is like the third time that the weapons have come out, and each time I've tried to describe it in a little bit different way. But basically, you got your handle, right? The gun comes out here. There's a little ball at the bottom of the handle. Normally you'd put the clip at the bottom, but you don't. There's something that goes over the handle of the gun, and it has this magnetic ball joint that has a lever up here that he can make it loose to where the ball joint just kind of freely turns, or he could lock it in place, whatever position it was currently in. Just for reference, at the back, right where your palm of your hand would be touching the back of the handle, that's where you slide in a case now. It's obviously the gun looks like it's from Earth. It looks like a Desert Eagle, which is a very, very large gun, and it should only be held normally in one or in two hands, usually. Although in movies they show it with one hand wielding all the time, but really you should hold it with both hands when you shoot a Desert Eagle. But and I won't go and get into it, but there is a reason why his father had two of them, and why his father could dual wield these guns. They're not the same. They have been completely altered beyond more than you know so far. But getting back to the point, there's a ball joint at the bottom, and at the end of the ball is a long katana-shaped like blade. Now normally it rests where the ball joint is the bottom of the handle, and the blade shoots out this way, parallel to the barrel. That's the way you would put it back in its sheath. But then you could pull it out, press the lever, the blade would swing down, and then it would just kind of dangle there. And then of course you could do all kinds of things with your wrist to flip it about, almost looking like a butterfly knife or something, right? But very long. And that's his father's weapons, his Faded Desert Eagles. Which I will just go ahead and admit, at some point, way later in the book, Nate will wield these weapons once he learns more about them. But he's never allowed to shoot them. At least not to someone who didn't deserve a dishonorable death. If a person's considered dishonorable, you can shoot them all you want. But that's always at your own risk on whether or not you're judging them to be dishonorable or not. Anyway, that's my take on his weapons. There are actually several weapons in this book. I want to point out at least three, and I won't tell them all in detail here, but there are at least three really unique weapons in this game, or not game, in this story. You've already seen two. You've seen the Desert Eagles, the Faded Desert Eagles, which are covered here, and you briefly saw Drobe's unique weapons, which you will learn more about in a future chapter. Anyway, I will let you go. It's going on 25 minutes now, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope to continue to do the chapters regularly again. Can't guarantee that with the way work's been, but just bear with me. We've got until chapter 11 or chapter 12, and we were on chapter 8 there. Alright. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.